Hi guys, here in the art workshop dedicated to painting. Here we're working on a piece that's called Waterfall. I'm just working on it right now, an abstract. Anyway, I was watching what goes on in Ireland and in Europe and in Germany and so forth, and Holland and Belgium and everywhere with the problem of the immigration. One of the issues is that it's not a matter of immigration. Because if you have people that immigrate and they go through the formal system and they are screened properly and then they have a follow-up on how they integrate into society and so forth, then these people can become established long-term and they're welcome because they are obviously going to contribute to the community, even though they come from a different culture. And after one or two generations, it becomes a little bit easier for those who are inborn, and then the next generation more so, and slowly on they establish roots, and the fourth generation is just, even though genetically, ethnically, they are still connected to their motherland, and culturally also they have that inborst, that's fine, but they become like bicultural, and they have not only a respect but also an underlying affection, an understanding of the land and the culture and the history and the people to which they now belong. I'm saying that because I live in South America, I live in Ecuador, I live in Galapagos since 1970. I was 15 years old when I came, one of those young boys. I came with my parents and my father, who came as an engineer to work with the government, in the industry. And my father was an engineer. But I have had that experience from being Flemish in Belgium, in Europe, a very, very different culture, to come to Latin America and to slowly on integrate. And it took me about 40, 50 years to catch on, really. I mean, to understand. After about 30 years, I was very comfortable. But after 40, 50 years, I noticed that other layers of understanding began to open up. And I'm sure I still have a long way to go. But my children are from here. My grandchildren are from here. So we are like, my father's buried in Guayaquil. So we are 4 generations already. And my nephews and my brother and everything. So we're an established family. So I'm talking about this because I know what I'm talking about. But we arrived and we contributed positively to the community. Not that we're perfect, but we were law-abiding and honest working people, just like everybody else, no better. And always very, very respectful of the people and the ethnicity and the culture, and this is their country. So for me, it's always been very clear. Now that I'm 72 and with 2 generations downhill, I feel like I have also maybe the attribute or the opening. They welcome the fact that I contribute and that I sometimes opinionate about politics a little bit and stuff like that. But what I'd like to say is to the people, and I think that in that sense, Latin Americans migrating to Europe, I never heard anything about so extreme as now what's going on. They were immigrants, and they are Catholic, and they speak Spanish, and so they have already a European background culture, also a global culture, and they come very often from big cities, so of course they have to learn the language. The northern countries are very different, but they integrate. And they're hardworking, the same in the United States, and they're grateful for the opportunities. And of course you're going to find a little bit of everything, but you're not going to see those very high crime rates or horrific crime rates of assault and this and that in that community. In the United States either. Spanish community is not necessarily that violent. They're more on the side like Chinese people migrating to the States. They're hardworking. and they're law-abiding citizens. So everybody goes like, oh, you're Chinese, okay. Nobody goes like, they see a Chinaman on the street, nobody thinks that they're going to get stabbed or they're going to get assaulted. But you see people from African ethnicity now, not before, but now, recently, the last 10 years or so, and these people have not been screened, and they have a totally different culture, and they have issues, and understandable. Sometimes they come from very difficult situations. Humanistically, we're not saying no, but they are just being, they arrive, and okay, these are refugees, and we're just sucking them into the system and releasing them onto the streets of the cities and so forth, instead of first separating them into camps where they get first indoctrination, they get screened, they get, all sorts of evaluations. And then there should be also a whole bunch of different levels of, like, you have to comply with stuff this way or that way. And if you don't, immediately you will be taken out. You have to earn your spurs. Second World War, the Japanese were one of the most honored divisions that were fighting in Europe. They earned, their citizenship, even though they had every right, because they fought in Europe, while their families were in concentration camps, because that's what they were. And I don't mean that you have to put them in a camp, with machine guns and everything. Of course, there will be guards and everything. But you can have a camp that has nice barracks and has a movie theater and a bowling alley and a park and with trees and some farm area and with mascots and everything. A nice and normal city. You built somewhere in the countryside, mini cities that are contained, that have a contained area in which they can, slowly on adapt and be among their own kind, that understand their culture, their food and everything, until they slowly on can then be, in small portions, can be assimilated into the community. And so this is a time bomb you're sitting on in Europe, and it's not going to work because people are really scared, and when people feel like there's no way out, and they're thinking about their children and their wives and the violence on the streets and the drug trafficking and everything, and people go like, no, this is not going to, this is not going to function. This is no way, not on my watch. And people will become reactive. And if you establish a bunch of laws that says, well, that's hate speech, or it's racial speech or whatever. No, it's not. It's a genuine concern. Now, understand that Europe needs a workforce, and this is an opportunity to have these younger people working there. And I understand that that's important for not only those jobs, but also those are the people that are going to support a little bit the social security system. There's an economic reason behind all this, because the Europeans are not having any children. So all that is understandable, and it can all be put into that equation. But my message to the people coming from anywhere else, be it Latin America or be it the African continent, is that it's so sad, because this was the golden opportunity to prove themselves. The golden opportunity to say, you know what, I'm an African. As we see now that all the countries in Africa are coming together and they want to, and they're acquiring self-esteem, self-awareness, and so forth, and totally right, and all that terrible history around that. I'm totally with that. I'm totally for them. I wish them well. The same as in Latin America. I wish them well, that they can become, a union in their own right, and then they will continue to do business with Europe and with everybody else. They will be just business partners, but they will be better off. But those that are now in Europe and so forth, it's like what it should be is that they arrive and they establish there, and they on a Saturday they should have these volunteer groups cleaning up the park, and painting stuff around and doing social service and gratitude, and doing neighborhood watch, and if there's a child that gets lost, that gets picked up, and where's mama, and call the police, and please come and get them. What should happen now is whole of Europe should be like, those are Africans, and they should feel grateful that these Africans are there, and they could say, wow, these are such sweet people. And to the Africans, I would say, what happened to Ubuntu? Because there are African cultures that are so noble and so beautiful and so sweet, so loving. And in your ancestral culture, there are many aspects which have to do with us and not me. So why would you go and rob and steal and stab and assault and traffic in drugs and so forth? You don't need all that, So there's an amazing opportunity of African-European integration and Latin American-European integration. And Latin American integration in Europe has done very good. Most of the time people are not afraid because they see someone from Latin America. I mean, they realize they're different, but most of the time it's okay. And Latin American, Ecuadorians are sweet. They're extremely hospitable here in the country and everything. Very open-hearted, very friendly. If they get angry, because you get them angry, you don't want to be around like everybody else. They get upset, righteously so. And it's not perfect. And yes, there is also, at a certain level, violence and drug trafficking and so forth. I'm not saying that's perfect. But that's more like a phenomenon that's beginning to happen the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But before that, Ecuador was an island of peace. We had no drug trafficking in Ecuador. And now it's being addressed, and it's going to be rooted out. The government's really on top, together with the United States and the military, and they're cracking down on this thing, just like El Salvador, beginning to do that. So that's just a temporary phenomenon. And the same must be done in Europe also. So I would speak to those people, and, in a certain way, when I talk to people like that, I understand where they're coming from, and in a certain way. And also my voice carries a certain authority because I know I'm here. I understand you. I can see you. And my wife is Ecuadorian. My children hence are 50-50. And my grandchildren, my son-in-law, he's Ecuadorian. So that's, 25. So, I'm definitely not a racist, nor a sexist, nor anything. And I have nothing against rich people either. And so that's not the thing. So what I mean is that, if I say something to these people, there's a certain underlying level of credibility. Like an elder who's talking to them and saying, listen, this is your golden opportunity. And it's not all of you, but nobody knows who's who. They all look similar. And so, because of the behavior of 10%, everybody else pays the price. But it's going to become a major issue of ethnic confrontation within Europe, which reminds me of 1939 or 1932, whatever, 1934, 1936, all of that. and also political between communism and fascism and so forth. And, do we want to go back down that route again? Or do you want to end up like Poland, where they're just going to say, okay, everybody out. That's it. No more. We close borders and that's it. Tighten up. And then you lose all that opportunity to work and to send your revenue to your families in Africa and support them and make an investment for a business and whatever, and strengthen the local economy and the city and the town and the village where you come from. So I think these young people, well, once again, they're young and they're not thinking straight. And of course, the organized crime takes advantage to infiltrate. And sometimes politicians, they go also, let's infiltrate people there to create havoc and instability and so forth. All that is most likely part of that too. There's a little bit of everything there, or it could be. So you have to cover it. But once again, they should. And let me say something in Spanish to at least because the European, the African ethnicities, most of the time speak French. So you can do that, that's okay. Moi, je parle français aussi, donc il n'y a pas de problème. Mais même en tant que Belge, je n'ai pas de problème avec la langue française ou flamand. Je suis flamand, je parle français. Ça m'est égal, on est tous des Belges, on est tous des Européens, on est tous des êtres humains. Alors moi, pas de problème. But that's something that you can do over there, right? But let me now, on this little video, because it's already 16 minutes, say something in Spanish so that you can maybe cut it out and use it. And I agree with that, not a problem. And to show them, for me to kind of maybe, what do you call it, encourage them, motivate them, advise them with a little bit of White Bear's wisdom. Ok, a nuestros hermanos ecuatorianos y latinoamericanos que están en Europa trabajando como inmigrantes hace mucho tiempo, un gran abrazo. Yo soy flamenco de Bélgica, de Flandes. A los 15 años me vine aquí al Ecuador con mi papi, con mi mami, con mi familia, mis hermanos, a la ciudad de Guayaquil. Mi papá murió, está enterrado en Guayaquil, mis hermanas se fueron a los Estados Unidos, bueno, están por allá. Mi hermano y yo estamos aquí. Mi esposa es ecuatoriana, de Quito, mis hijos son nacidos aquí, vivimos en Galápagos. Una de mis hijas está casada, tiene 3 hijos, mis nietecitos. Entonces, yo conozco bastante bien la cultura latinoamericana y siempre vivo profundamente agradecido, integrado. Me encanta todo lo que tiene que ver con la cultura, la gastronomía, todo lo que escribió yo, lo que es propio, estas cosas tan ricas que otras personas las ven y van así como, y uno en cambio dice, no, si este es lo mejorcito. Estas son las cosas que uno aprende. Bueno, en Europa ahorita hay un gran problema que va creciendo cada vez más con el problema de los refugiados. Y el problema del crimen, de los asaltos, de la inseguridad, especialmente por muchas personas jóvenes de África, de la etnia africana, que vienen de pueblos donde hubieron conflictos, y bueno, y son jóvenes y todo. Hay cada vez más problemas con drogas y con bandas y todo eso. Entonces, y ahora la gente de Europa está asustada. La gente de Europa está asustada. Yo que no vivo en Europa y vivo aquí, yo estoy asustado por Europa, por lo que va a pasar. Porque la gente dice, chus, o sea, esta inseguridad, esto afecta a mi esposa, afecta a mis hijos, cualquier rato pasa algo y cada vez es peor. Entonces la gente ya se está levantando y no solamente políticamente, aunque se puede dar de nuevo que la derecha extrema fascista, como lo que pasó en la Segunda Guerra Mundial, vaya a hacer una limpieza étnica deportar absolutamente todo el mundo, los que son y los que no son. Pero más que todo es una bomba de tiempo, porque la gente cuando está en su país y tiene este tipo de niveles de invasión por los refugiados, los jóvenes, eso todo, y tienen un incremento de violencia, de balacera, cosas que en Europa nunca, jamás escuchaba un disparo por ahí, nunca. Peor un asalto con un cuchillo, cosas así. Esto era nunca. Entonces, el asunto es, o sea, muy rara vez, ¿no? Alguna persona con un problema mental o algo muy excepcional. Entonces, puede ser que se dé un conflicto cívico étnico, o puede ser que el país se vaya hacia una política tipo nazismo, fascismo, donde realmente dice tenemos que hacer una limpieza étnica y váyanse. Y obviamente la gente va a decir, no, yo tengo mis derechos, va a haber. Entonces la cosa no está bien. Entonces me da pena porque los hermanos africanos, la etnia africana, podía haber aprovechado y puede aprovechar, todavía están a tiempo, esta coyuntura de que están en Europa para demostrar cosas que hacer brigadas de limpieza del parque, cuidar, hacer servicio de policía barrial con un radio, ayudar a las personas, en el trabajo trabajar súper bien, ser muy humilde, ganársela, como ustedes. Latinoamericano en términos generales, como inmigrante y como trabajador y todo, tiene una buena reputación. Entonces, aconsejar a esa gente esa gente joven, para que aprovechen la oportunidad, porque, claro, la gente del país, los alemanes, los holandeses, los ingleses, los irlandeses, los belgas, los franceses, lo que sea, te ven una persona africana, ven un negrito o 3, 4 jóvenes que están en una esquina parada y más bien se acercan porque se sienten protegidos. Y cuando pasa alguien por ahí, los jóvenes se sacan el sombrero y saludan y dicen, cualquier cosa, por favor, cuenta con nosotros, estamos aquí para servir. Y gracias por permitirnos, por darnos la bienvenida. Yo tan agradecido de vivir aquí. Ya mire, somos 4 generaciones. Entonces, igual hubiera estado feliz en Bélgica, pero mi papá escogió venir a trabajar con el gobierno del Ecuador, con la Armada, como ingeniero. Entonces, bueno, pues yo tenía 15 años, mi papá dijo, bueno, la familia, nos vamos a Sudamérica. Este fue un cambio brutal también para mí. Al comienzo muy duro. No sabía ni español ni nada. Entonces, yo pienso más que todo, nuestros hermanos latinoamericanos y todo, de repente, públicamente, colectivamente, o lo que sea, pronunciarse y decir a los medios de comunicación, hacer ¿cómo se llama? Un estamento, ¿no? O sea, un pronunciamiento y todo, de decir, bueno, nosotros no somos estos jóvenes violentos, nosotros somos ya de más tiempo aquí y todo, y queremos y respetamos muchísimo, y tal vez llevar con distintivo, como una flor o un botón o algo así en el sombrero, en algún lugar que dice gratitud, algún símbolo de gratitud, o que soy una buena persona y si necesitan yo les ayudo, o algo así. Y marcar esa diferencia entre lo que es el latinoamericano, que ya lleva presente en Europa cuánto tiempo, y bueno, personas de África también, y en cambio ese grupo de más recién llegados que parecen tener dificultades de integración sumamente serios, que reciben ayuda económica de todo tipo, ayuda económica y soporte de los gobiernos que la propia gente de ahí no reciben. Entonces dice, bueno, por lo menos si vienen a sumar, ya, bueno, ya, pero entendemos, pero no es que no vienen a sumar, estamos aterrorizados porque, y se ven un poco de videos de asaltos y cosas así. La gente está, esas marchas y todo. Entonces, ustedes hagan todo lo que pueden para separarse de ese grupo y decir, no, no, nosotros estamos aquí mucho más tiempo y bueno, pues somos también parte descendencia de Europa, entonces, y nosotros no nos meten en la misma sopa. Pero aprovechan más que nunca, como por ejemplo de los vietnamitas, los chinos que han llegado a los Estados Unidos, los orientales, los japoneses y todo. Que la gente los ve y dice, ah, estos son comerciantes, estos son trabajadores, o los judíos también, por ejemplo. Pero se sienten súper seguros que nunca les van a asaltar. Pero en cambio viene una persona de África y les da miedo, pues les da miedo, tienen miedo. Porque ellos no quieren lastimar a nadie. Ellos no quieren atacar, no quieren andar con una pistola y disparar. Pues contra la ley, ellos quieren obedecer la ley. Entonces son muy vulnerables en ese sentido. Ustedes pueden contribuir a eso. Y hacer quedar bien. Y que te llaman un sudaca ahí en España, lo que sea. Bueno, dice, puede ser que sean sudaca, pero son sudacas, o sea, son buen datos, son buena gente, trabajan duro. Mire cuánta gente en los Estados Unidos alaba la ética de trabajo de latinoamericana. Y es evidente. Los grandes contratistas y todo el mundo dice, no, nosotros con esa gente queremos trabajar. Qué bestia, o sea, ¿no? Son una bendición. Un abrazo, les quiero mucho.